I know, such a good idea.
You're recording.
We are recording. Okay. I call to order this District of Clearwater regular council meeting for June 20th at 6:30 p.m. I would like to begin by acknowledging we are fortunate to be gathered together on the unceded territory of the Sim peoples who have been caretakers of this land since time immemorial. Are there any late items? Is the RFP for the roads considered a late item? Okay.
Yes, Mayor Blackwell.
Okay. So it's on your agenda, but as item 16.7, but it is a late item from the regular package. This is RFP, and we will be striking 16.6 as the Aboriginal Society will be coming to present and doing a formal request at the next meeting. So those are the two changes to the agenda. Anything else? If not, can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Bratton, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. All those in favor? Thank you. Adoption of that's the adoption of the agenda that I just did there, right there. Are there any conflicts of interest? Councillor Herring first, and then Councillor Sim.
I have conflict of interest for sections 3.4, 3.5, and 3.6 of the in-camera meeting. There's section 91A of the community chart.
1A, okay. In camera. Councillor Sim.
3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 of the in-camera.
In camera. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Nothing further. Moving on to adoption of the minutes of the council meeting held 8.1 June 6, 2023. Are there any errors or omissions? If not, can I get a mover and a seconder
Moved.
to adopt? Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Bratton. All those in favor? And then 8.2 minutes of the special council meeting held May 2nd.
It's moved.
Moved by Councillor Frizzle, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. All those in favor? Nothing under 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I am going to do my report at the next meeting because we do have a lot on this agenda. Item 14, 14.1, Councillor Bratton. Anything to report?
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. Practicing. Nothing to report.
Thank you. Councillor Frizzle.
Thank you. I attended the June 8th Tourism Wells Gray meeting, and they were very happy to report that at the Visitor Information Center in May, they more than doubled the visitors. They're very excited, and it's continuing. They're very busy, and they've got volunteers, and they're full on, so they're very excited about that. I also attended the June 13th Trails Task Force, and there was lots of discussion about parks and line painting, and we're going to plan for a grand opening of the 3 trails, the Park Drive one, the roundabout to Wells Gray End, in the fall. So all ready to show off by then. And I also attended the June 20th meeting with Trans Mountain, and it was a construction closeout workshop, and they talked about project information, socioeconomic indicators, and tracking economic opportunities. How we as the group saw it, and then also the community impacts, the engagement and communications, and the benefits from having them here for the. And then they talked about reclamation. So it was a really good meeting. It was very informative, and I think they got a lot out of what we saw as positives and negatives. That's my report.
Did they happen to mention a estimated timeline to actually be completely finished this?
Not yet. They're
Still
they'll say one thing and then they'll
do another thing. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Herring.
Nothing to report.
Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. Nothing
Happy
to
post-birthday and a nice new truck.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. Nothing to report at this time.
Councillor Matheson is in a different time zone in Germany. It's probably dark there, but he seems to be having fun. Councillor Sim.
Thanks very much. I just want to, first of all, extend gratitude to Mayor Blackwell for sponsoring the hotel visit for our new physician who will be arriving in August, and to Councillor Bratton for giving a tour of the elementary school. It was a really good whistle-stop tour. And they're looking forward to coming, and they'll be arriving September the 1st, so we'll be ready to meet their preparations. We've also had some new news that looks like we may be hosting a new physician who's going to arrive August 2025. So that's also very positive. I attended the DEI meeting, and it was really important for the group to acknowledge National Indigenous Peoples Day tomorrow. I think there's a variety of things that are happening at the school, and the group also expressed great gratitude to Queria, who's been doing a really good job about doing some promotions that are being shared with our media person, which I think is being well received. Also attended with the mayor, the Chamber of Commerce meeting where TELUS and Mascon presented and talked about some various initiatives throughout the valley. There was also a fellow from the Kamloops Chamber and talked about the success of working together, and they've got, I think, a policy that's now gone to the federal government about safety. Did I get that right? Like it's been...
Yeah, that one kind of confused me. If you're talking about mandatory dash cams and that sort of thing, is it that one or something else?
Anyway, they're actively working with the Valley, taking some voices, but it certainly showed the power of how a chamber can work together with some policy things. Some of the other discussions that came up were working with Tourism Wells Grey and hoping that if they do modernize their photos, that it's something that could be accessed by everybody in the Valley, and that could assist in all sorts of recruitment, retention opportunities, which I think would serve everybody really, really well. And also just that the Business Excellence Awards are coming in October. And then I also had an email from Valley Pride. They received and wanted to share as part of the DEI group that they've received funding for a rainbow crosswalk. And so they're looking forward to maybe, I think they're going to send in a letter. Mr. Prime, I don't know if they sent anything to you as of yet.
Yes, they had.
Okay, and so they're looking to coordinate with the district and maybe some line painting or doing something, but making that. So it was really nice that the Wells Grey Community Forest had acknowledged their efforts and some of the campaigns that they're doing. And of course, it's grad this Friday and prom is on Saturday. So lots going on as usual.
Congratulations. Anyways, yes, thank you for all that. Look forward to those actions coming forward. Anyways. Item 15.1, you have a very long CAO report from May before you. Lots going on, lots of staff involvement. It's nice to see many things fleshed out in there. If there are any questions of Mr. Thomas or staff on that, feel free to fire away. If not, you can always ask later. But yes, we're at a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pager. So lots going on. Very excited, especially to see the rec culture and events stuff. It's nice to be post-COVID. Looks good. If nothing, moving on to item 16.1, new business. YCS request for a letter of support in principle. There is a draft letter for you there. Some of you have noted to me through messaging that the draft notes 24 units, whereas Mr. Kehoe had suggested up to 33. At this point, his grant is for 24 units. If they renegotiate the grant, they could go for more units, but they also need to rezone to make more units. So it's not just the granting body that has to give approval for the more units. It would also have to come back to council to rezone the land for extra units, because right now it maxes out, I believe, at 24. Mr. Thomas?
That's correct, because the land has already been developed partially with the first phase. I believe the maximum that they're hoping to have now is north of 50, or just around 15, but the current zoning does not allow for that many units.
That will be something that they have to work on once they solidify whether or not their grant is going to be rolled over and extended with with BC Housing. So, questions of staff on the letter? Councillor Herring.
I'm just curious, how do the infrastructure requirements of a project like this fit into this letter? Like, we're supporting this in principle, but obviously something this size will come with significant infrastructure requirements. How are we anticipating handling that?
We actually had a technical meeting with YCS's design team, YCS's executive group, the district's operation team, engineers, planning, etc. And we talked about the infrastructure requirement for the area. There is a recognition that backup power is going to be a requirement. Backup power is something the district is currently moving forward with independently anyways. With respect to the sewer, the siphon is an ongoing issue that we are all aware of, but the addition of 30 or 24 to 33 unit, depending on the end result of this project, will not have a detrimental impact on the siphon at this point. The location of the property is in a place where upgrades to lift station, upgrades to the physical sewer system is not required. They're close enough to the gravity-fed portion of the system. And as for fire flow, given the type of building that they're building and the high-rise nature of it, sprinkler systems will be installed, which will ameliorate the concerns about fire flows in the building. That being said, we will eventually need to upgrade a lot of other infrastructure further along Park Drive because they're further away from the gravity-fed system, and they're also of a construction type nature that will not have separate fire systems or extinguisher systems.
Okay, that's great.
So
Thank you.
in summary, there is no immediate infrastructure criticality that can prohibit this project from moving forward.
Perfect, thanks.
That's good enough. No follow-ups? Any further questions on this? Okay, so we do have this letter here. What is the wish of council? Somebody want to move that we sign this and send this off?
I'll move that.
Thank you. Seconder? Thank you. All those in favor? Excellent project. Let's hope that they get their grant renewed. Moving on to 16.2, which is there's a Wells Grade Community Forest Subcommittee, moved by Tim Panko and seconded by Heather McLennan, that the Ted Richardson bursary, $2,000 be awarded to Martha Taylor for $1,000 for nursing program at UBC Okanagan, and Madison Clark for $1,000 at Thompson Rivers University B-Ticket Welder program. Do we need to move this, or is this just an information? So we have to move this again.
So moved.
So moved by Councillor Sims, seconded by Councillor Bratton. All those in favor? Fantastic news. That welding program continues to give on. That's so exciting for Martha Taylor to go into nursing.
I don't know if I shared this at one council, but Maddie Clark, we had a number of students who participated in the heavy metal rocks, and Maddie won the award for having the most agile ability on a big floater, moving like rocks almost like ping pong balls onto pillars. So she's really skilled, very, very talented. So this award is really going to be well deserved and go forward.
Yeah, very cool, and it's great that the Community Forest Society, Commission, all that can fund things for our local kids to do these kind of things in this world, so that's great.
I would be very happy with those two.
I agree.
Yes. Item 16.3, summary of the financial information, the SOFI report. Are there any questions of staff on this? Big report. This is a legislative requirement, especially maybe Ms. Glassen, you could maybe speak a little bit to why there's a difference, because it came up in earlier conversation, why there's a difference for reporting of staff salaries, etc., versus council salaries?
You're correct, Mayor, that it is a requirement of the Financial Information Act. It has to be filed by June the 30th.
Right.
And upon approval, we'll be signing the report. Inside your report on page 67, there's a schedule of payments for goods and services. That's basically all our vendors greater than $25,000 are listed there. Also on page 68 is the schedule of remuneration and benefits. All council and mayor are listed there along with their assigned benefits, as well as any staff person that is makes greater than $75,000 in a year. And finally, on page 69 is your schedule of grants and contributions.
Any questions, Ms. Glassen, or further comments, Mr. Thomas?
I would like to clarify on page 67, the values present based on the vendors are not directly related to, or not separated based on projects or based on ongoing operations. It's all sums of money paid to vendor X is reflected in that area.
Yeah, thank you for that. I was looking at some of those numbers and noticed a $6.17 million total, and going that our annual operating budget is only around $3 million. Yeah, I wouldn't want to have to explain that one. My credit card company. Anyways, any further comments or questions? Motion to accept, is that what was required at this point?
Yep.
Okay, motion to approve the Sophie report. Moved by Councillor Fizzle, seconded
Second.
by Councillor McKenzie. Thank you. All those in favor? Okay, and that passes. Hey, an exciting one. 16.4, something that we've been interested in a long time. A staff report on public art. Somebody wish to speak to this? Or
I'll speak to this because Leanne is not here.
Yep.
I believe while I was away, there was some discussion about public art, and staff was asked to bring forward a report. Staff went along and did a broad scan of available areas within the district that can be used for public art, including, in some cases, washrooms at the beach, North Thompson Sportsplex, which currently has a mural, or actually two, Dutch Lake Community Center. I understand the gym area had a mural in the past, and so we're presenting that as a potential space for inclusion in the future. Sorry?
Sorry if you just made a face.
That's right.
Yeah, no, inside the gym, yeah. The Splash Park, well 1 and 3 building, which is just at the intersection near the RCMP, and Rotary washrooms as all potential spaces that could be utilized as part of a public art portfolio.
any questions or thoughts on that? Councillor Sim?
And I think that the mural and the art is a form of placemaking, which, you know, invigorates and enlivens. And the other good thing about anything to do with art or making spaces more open to people is it makes it less appealing for dubious activity. But I'm wondering what the thoughts were of staff is in terms of what would next steps look like?
The next steps we discussed was for council to develop a policy first is ideal. That will help guide how we solicit artists to provide proposals and what could be placed in each of those spaces. Then we move forward with budgeting. Then we move forward with potentially actually awarding a contract to do some of those designs that council may or may not adopt.
Yes, and I do remember a couple of years ago we did have a potential design. Did that go through?
No, because the question was, it was for the sports park.
Yeah.
And it was a presentation for something. There was some questions about what exists there and some of the symbolism there.
Right.
And then there was going to be some research done on who the original artist was, because the lesson learned from the gym is when you paint over somebody's artwork and you haven't spoken to them, that it's maybe not the best move forward. So
Hence, we need a policy.
hence.
I'm sure there's a mural policy out there. Councillor Herring, did you have a comment?
Yeah, it might be wise to consider a couple different styles of policy kind of nested in one. I know Edmonton had, for example, a living mural set up where there were certain spaces where it was actually open, no approval required. You could go paint at any time, and it was essentially plywood panels mounted on the outside of a building. Sorry. It's on, yeah. Yeah, and so that's one option. And then the other thing is sometimes it's good to include like a sunset on these murals, you know, like we will keep for X number of years after which it can be reevaluated. Say you've got the skate park situation where somebody did a mural that at the time seemed fine. Here we are years later, if we can have just something in place to say at this point it can be applied for again in a new space sort of thing.
What good comments.
I have one.
Councillor Bratton, Councillor Frizzle.
Could I suggest too that the daycare or after-school program building be added to that? That would be kind of.
Not ours, but
Oh, it's not.
We can suggest it.
YCS.
It's YCS's. Yes. Yeah.
And then the bus stops, are those ours?
Yeah, the bus stops.
I know that they're variegated.
That's covered in this report. But I think we have to have a conversation about the bus stops because, like many things, I think once we see how they operate this winter, we may have to add some plexi back to one side.
That was a
depending on
great
which
brainstorm
direction the,
discussion.
Yeah. Anyways, this is a nice start. Yeah, Councillor Sim?
And so my other question would be is where would be the guiding vision? Like I recognize a policy, but in terms of like who would craft, is it going to come to council or would that be put out to a community organization? Would it be put out for input? Mainly being so, for example, like Victoria, I think they did their themes around the orcas and they've done some different things. Like how would we solicit that? Or is that too early and see how the policy develops?
I think a couple examples. Mr. Thomas, go ahead, but I think finding a couple example policies from small towns. I'm sure Chemainus has one for some reason. Just thinking outside the box, or the obvious. Yeah, I think we need to, because of some of the issues with past ideas, we need to definitely set a theme the same way we would an OCP, and especially if council is going to sponsor or commission or pay for these things, then there have to be definite parameters. So let's go out into the world and find somebody else's and see what we can copy and paste. But yes, or yeah, maybe third party. Go ahead, Councillor.
And just supplemental, and I think also included in that correspondence is Valley Pride had also been granted some funding to do a local mural to demonstrate diversity and inclusion within the community. So I think moving ahead with this policy would be great.
Cool. Yes, there's lots of things we could color up, especially the back. I think that Bill, you had another one. Sorry, Councillor Harry, did you have another one?
Yeah, and sorry, just one other comment was that these are all great spaces for two-dimensional art, but there's also sculptors, people who might want to take other space in the community, so perhaps we can include that element as well.
Idea.
I've already created car hinge in my backyard out of Datsuns, but yes, I hear you on that one. So dead car parts. Anyways, yes, I think this is exciting. I think this being on the agenda, and hopefully we can get this in the newspaper, get some discussion going in the community. People with interest in this. The next one up is 16.5. Scheduling your UBCM meetings. Mr. Thomas?
Is there a specific direction on public art for staff?
Oh, there is specific direction. Okay. Back to the specific direction.
So I could make a motion that staff present a list of similar community public art policy. Does that make sense?
Bring forward a small collection of similar public art policy, mural policy for us to have a look at. Yeah, Councillor Sim.
I'd certainly second that. I'm wondering if council wants to do a two-prong effect. Does one work on the policy and two work on, what that cohesive vision might be and how to solicit that?
I think we're going to find that examples of that in other people's things, but yes, I think it has to fit a community vision. It can't just be all things and everything. That said, we also need to theoretically put a timeline on this, and I see a very busy summer with very few resources, so a while. Councillor Sim, thought on that?
Yeah, because I still want to hold your place for your motion, which is important there. And I'm almost wondering if that's something that we couldn't feed through the other organizations on soft discussion points. So, for example, Tourism Wells Gray, if they have some ideas and just start bubbling it up with the anticipation that this would be a 2024. So being quite clear about that 2023 is maybe policy development and 2025 implementation.
Late fall of 2023, if there's a quiet period in 2024, hopefully we can get one or two of these.
Yeah, but certainly, really putting the expectations. I don't know what that would mean for Valley Pride, but I would leave that to staff.
Yeah, okay. So back to your motion, which is to ask staff to collect several samples of mural policy from other jurisdictions, public art mural policies from other jurisdictions.
Do you want them to craft a policy and bring it back? Or do you want to see a selection, or do you want them to do it?
I'd like option present, like say this is a regular staff report, here
Yeah, I'd be more in favor of just bringing back a few so we can look at them and then develop that. Mostly because it's very fun, but in the scope of the stuff that we need to accomplish in the next 6 months, I would love to see a few examples, which is not a terribly hard staff thing to do, to bring back and photocopy a few versus a full-on staff report with the beginnings of a developed policy, because I think it's the community and us that are going to drive that, not necessarily staff that are going to drive what that looks like.
So 3?
Three other draft policies. Okay.
But I like your living one too.
Yeah. Okay, so in the form of a motion that council directs staff to research or to find 3 mural / public art policies from small to medium towns to bring to council for review in the next 6 months. Would that be a reasonable statement? Are you okay with that, Mr. Herring? Councillor Herring? Councillor Sim, I believe you already seconded the concept. All those in favor? Thank you. I think that's okay. Okay, now on to UBCM. There is a very large section of stuff here on UBCM. I'll let council know that currently I'm already working with Barrier on Valemount, and potentially Simp First Nations chief and members of council on attending meetings with MOTI on valley-wide safety. MOTI and Mr. Solicitor General Safety Minister Farnworth on RCMP, CVSE, highway improvements between those two ministries. There's also a desire from all parties, all local governments and Simp First Nation, to have a joint meeting with BC Hydro to talk about power security. At this point, there isn't a direct request, to my knowledge, on TELUS, because we don't feel we're going to get really much of anywhere with TELUS at this point. But the power security, highway safety, and highway improvements, those meetings are being asked for as a group of regional governments because we see power in that. And with Simp First Nation wanting to be a strong advocate for that, especially Chief Lampro, we think that we're going to get some attention on that one. Are there anything other meetings that we think we should be asking for at UBCM? Councillor Sim.
Perhaps take this opportunity to meet around BC infrastructure. First of all, to extend gratitude for the way that they have granted municipalities money on infrastructure, but maybe to have an idea of what's coming down the pipeline, and certainly to express some of the thoughts that were shared at the BC Housing Summit, is the fact that municipalities can't keep chasing grants with their limited staffing, and to maybe bring that forward. That could be something that I think we talked about at the C2C, and we do it as a collective.
Yeah, I can, CAO Bob Payette out of Barrier is arranging those, so I'll put that bug, two of the mayors and one of the CAOs are away on holiday right now. But yeah, sure, I'll put that bug in the air to see if that's something, and I understand that Minister Kang of Municipal Affairs and Parliamentary Secretary of Rural Development, Rolly Russell, will be touring areas of the province, potentially including ours. And I've already put the bug in the air that infrastructure is an issue in Clearwater. So, but yes, okay, I will take a note of that and put that.
And then the second one, just for council's contemplation, if it's worthy to go forward, but maybe the Ministry of Health, as we've been reading about in the news, is the practice ready assessment physician pathway is going to be growing. And just to ensure that there is some front end loading on how those physicians can be integrated into communities, welcomed. We don't have the resources. A lot of other communities have professional recruiters, but places like Merritt, Lillooet, Clearwater, Ashcroft, Lytton, they're pretty much all left on their own. And just making them aware that when you just pop people in almost as though it's an outpost, it's difficult. And asking for some sort of a strategy and just support the efforts of getting some funding in that.
Okay. I personally, I don't think we're going to get that meeting, but we can try.
We don't even have to ask. You just asked for input, so I'm fine. Because
no,
if it's
no.
too much, because the other thing is it takes staff time to write that brief too.
I also don't think Mr. Dix wants to talk to me for at least another year and a half.
And we're done.
But yes, if there's some way we can lump it into somebody else's thing, I will ask around, because I'm sure I've heard that another local government. What I'm finding, so on a basic sort of brief of what I'm hearing on UBCM at this particular point, many smaller local governments are very taxed out on their ability to send people to this event, especially Vancouver with the rates. So, for instance, at this particular point, Barrier is only sending the mayor and CAO. I expect that on several other areas. There will probably be the ability, if we find somebody else that is going in for a similar request, to tag a member of council into that meeting as supporting for basically the same thing we're asking for.
So on that, and I think you had started the rural caucus for healthcare, and I'm wondering if another avenue that one of your colleagues from UBCM might pick up is just the advocacy for the BC College of Physicians and Surgeons, and having discussions about inter-provincial accreditation. Because right now
There is a
Ask you about
complete
that.
organization right now called the BC Rural Center that is taking this on. The mayor of Merritt is in that, or a big part of that. They have an interesting set of ideas and policies. The TNRD is a member of that organization now officially, and has, I believe, done a $2,500 donation or grant to help fund further advocacy through them. I do have concerns with the organization, but I think if council members want to have a look at that organization and see that it's only a $50 membership to join, and then you get input. So if we want to do that, then have a look at it and then decide. Councillor Sim,
I would make that motion to join for $50.
I think you need to read their stuff first.
Oh, and so what I was understanding is you couldn't read it until you became a
No,
member.
no, you can't have input. You can
Oh,
go to their
okay,
website.
okay,
So
so
BC Rural Center, I believe BC Rural Center. I will send you a link. You should read their stuff before.
So we'll pull back on those last two suggestions and move forward in construction.
Yeah, and if I can find somebody else that's doing health recruitment, and I'm quite sure I can, I'll see if I can get somebody tagged into that meeting as support, because a lot of municipalities are going to be going into a room facing 6 to 8 government officials with 1 or 2 human beings. I'm quite sure they would like a supportive body at the table with them. So we'll try to do that. Okay, I think that's good. Mr. Thomas, anything further?
Is there a direction?
No, I don't think there's any direction to staff here, because the group meeting on infrastructure I will work with CAO Payette, and hopefully Ward's back from holidays, and then Owen from Valemont are the three that are trying to do that one. Sim First Nation wouldn't be interested in that because they run through a federal stream, but I think everybody else would probably go, oh yeah, right, we need to talk about that.
Was there anything else that came out of C2C?
Those were, it was TELUS, Hydro, Highway Safety, and, oh God, what was the other main theme? All three of them were covered except for TELUS, and basically the agreement from everybody there is TELUS was basically not at this time in history, because they're in a cycle for last mile grants outside of municipalities, that it wasn't worth something chasing until the municipal grants come back around, which is phase 2 or 3 of this process, which is a year or two off. That said, TELUS is always there on the floor at UBCM. You can always grab TELUS and say, hey, we need to talk about Clearwater at a staff-to-staff level, which is basically almost the same thing as having a direct meeting with them. So 3 out of the 4 are covered. TELUS is not at this point.
Good, thank you.
Okay. So no direction for staff on that one. Item 16.6 is off the agenda for now. On the table, 16.7 is your draft roads request for proposal, very large document. And I'll just get staff to comment on this. I think my first question is going to be basic, substantially large changes versus the last request for proposal, maybe.
I'll have a
You take a crack at it, Mr. Thomas.
and I will reinforce his presentation.
Okay. Hello, Mayor, Council. Yes, so this is the road maintenance RFP draft. I'll kind of walk you through it. Just might as well go through the whole thing. Try not to take too much of your time, but if you turn to the table of contents, it starts out with a summary of the opportunity, just explaining the general what's winter and summer work, and explains the differences, and then it goes into the terms of service, and have it as a 4-year contract as of now, and if you're still happy with 4 years, carry on.
What it is now?
I think it was a
There is-
multi-generational contract.
Yeah.
There is a maximum of 5 years council can award a contract for. In our previous discussion, council had opted for 4 years with 1 year extension as an option, and that's what the RFP has been built as.
Okay. Currently, it doesn't talk about the extension. I can add the extension, and I think it's just 4 years.
Go ahead. And I do, just to state, I do like the 4-year because it keeps us in constant rotation of awarding a contract after an election, and a year after an election. Even if we did a 4 and 1, that would keep us going for the next 4 elections or 3.5 elections without having to award a road maintenance contract in the year of an election. Anyways.
And section 3 is mostly administrative, just explaining how to fill out the RFP and explaining the steps going through it. Once we get into section 4, it's where it starts to explain like the evaluation criteria. Yeah.
I would like to draw council's attention to 3, 11, 12, 13, and 14. And we do have a fairness advisor appointed, which is a district legal counsel, to monitor this process to make sure it is done according to established policies, guidelines, legislative requirements, etc.
All right. So this is a similar format to the parks RFP that went out as far as the evaluation So it'll be at 25 points on capabilities, 25 on experience, and 50 points for price. That was on page 14, sorry.
Is it my mic?
In the event of a tie, we have a tiebreaker scheme with which is an interview process. And then terms. Then we're into section 5. Terms and conditions of the RFP. Sorry. So yeah, it explains on page 15 the district's rights to modify the RFP and liabilities. It's more administrative, and once you get into section 6 is where the scope of work really starts to get in the meat and potatoes of the contract. So that's page 18. Summary.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
When it comes to assessing, currently when the road is assessed, say in wintertime, who decides when they plow? Or is that their decision, or do we decide? I'm not sure of the, and then is it different here?
It's a combination of both, and
Okay.
the contractor is out there on the daily
Right.
looking to see when is the best time to start plowing,
And then they would come back, report to you, and then it's a decision made. Okay.
yeah, and so there are when it's a complaint based, like one particular road is icy or something, then we just phone them and
Oh, gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
that sort of thing.
My understanding in the past, it's basically there's trigger points. Are we still going with trigger points?
Yes.
So X number of centimeters of snow in a period would trigger an automatic. This is now you need to plow within 24 hours, or is that spelled out the same way in here as it was in the last time? Or?
It is spelled out the same as it was.
That's
in the last.
under the scope of work, which is the meat and potato under section 6, but he's
Okay.
going to get to that in a
Okay,
sec.
good.
Yep.
I'll just stop it.
Yeah, so then 6.1 is just the general items, and it differentiates between the lump sum work and the additional work. So the lump sum work is like the plowing and sweeping and cleaning out catch basins and things like that in the summer. I actually have them listed in Appendix B. You'll see the pricing sheet is, it's page 8 of Appendix B. So that's separate numbering on there. B, yes.
3 pages from the back of your package.
Those are the things that would be covered under lump sum pricing. So that would not change unless we requested more work.
Right, so,
Okay.
yeah, so,
Worked in the schedule.
so things like patching and
Yeah.
jing and things like that they'd be additional work. They're not always needed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Sim?
So I'm just looking at and if I'm right, it's 3.2 price and collection. Is that where we're at?
That's where we're at.
Okay. So when I look at this, it's, winter snow and ice removal, and it's a lump sum. So that that would be paid even if we had 3 snow days versus 23 snow days. So the price is the same regardless.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we actually originally, when we did our first road contract, had it the other way around, and then we had one winter where we went over by 20 events and had to. I believe we went to the contractor and came to an agreement on that. But it works sometimes for the contractor in their favor. Sometimes it does not work for the contractor in their favor. I wouldn't want to be doing it on wildfires prevention, but on winter snow maintenance, it generally is the balance of averages that we do this on +1 or 2. That's sort of my memory of the process. Okay.
My other question in there is that in the bulk of the documents, it refers to salt and sand, but I wasn't aware that we did any salting.
There is salt mixed in with the sand.
Oh, so it's a mixture. It's not either or.
Right.
Okay, I just remember. Do you remember that Ministry of Transportation and the woman glared at us at all and said we don't use salt? She was so fierce.
The Ministry of Transportation uses brine. Brine is essentially, it's not NaCl, table salt, or that kind of salt. It's usually mag chloride or calcium chloride. It's still salt. It's just salt by a different
Well, that
name.
woman's been gone a long time. She's,
Yes.
that
Anyways,
is-
so yes, times they
That's
haven't
good to know.
changed. Okay, sorry. So that's that.
So yeah, so each of those pay items has a section that explains in the RFP the details.
I have another
And
question.
just for council's knowledge, this is draft. There will be finalization over the coming days, and we intend to post this out by the end of the week or early next week for sure. But it's still in draft, just letting you know.
A lot of what I'm seeing in this is comment to contracts that I signed. QMS, College Management System, and things like that was called by different names, but it's basically the same thing. Requirements that yeah, a lot of this is very similar. Anyways, further comments from staff?
Yeah, so once we get through the summer and winter work, there is a section 6.4 is all seasons. So these are on page 48 it starts, and these items are typically
48.
not common. So like debris removal, once or twice per year, they'll have to remove a tree from across the road, or there'll be a mudslide, and so these are all paid out as additional work. There's not a specific pay item for them. I changed the grading to once per month for the main roads that are gravel, and then twice per year for the remainder. Although, like the local gravel roads, there's a few small ones that don't get a lot of traffic. Oh, which page? And the thinking was I've already graded Dunn Lake Road probably 4 times this year, I think. So
Yeah, so there is still the ability, even with the base standards here that we put into this for, say, grading on the side roads, if we have an incredibly wet year and there's the need to grade more, or a incredibly dry year, I'm not going to use that example. We'll just stick with incredibly wet year. There is the ability for us to basically say, we would like you to do an extra grading on this road, and we are going to pay you for that road, extra grading on this road, if we request
Correct,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What would happen, say we have, you were talking about, say, snow incidences or big rain incidences, and they bid for 5, but we have 45.
This is the thing, they don't bid for 5.
It's regardless.
It's regardless, so they get paid a lump sum.
I get it, but what happens if it goes crazy?
It-
Are
it-
we, do
yeah.
you leave them?
Law of averages.
It's generally the law of averages.
Okay.
It has happened where we've had 40 plus incidents in a year, and I can't remember. I think 40 is the average. I think 40 used to be the average. I can't remember. It's changed because the world has
For
changed.
sure.
But basically, there have been years where the snow plows have ran every second or third day. There's been years where they haven't run more than twice a month.
Right.
Some years you make hay, some years you don't. And that's basically how it works out. That's why we do a 4-year contract, or you do a longer term contract versus a 1-year or 2-year time, because it is a shock absorber for the contractor to basically go, this year I'm gonna do quite well on this. Next year it might be a heavy work year and I won't do as well. 1 year will balance off against each other. This is fairly standard in most highways contracts.
For sure.
It was very standard in my parks contract as well.
Okay.
Um,
Do you,
yeah.
sorry, what I guess I'm concerned about is if a company is hired that has issues because we had too many events and they can't function in the next year, what happens?
Then we have a negotiation, but go
Okay.
ahead, Mr. Or we could go out to rebid. Mr.
Okay.
Thomas, talk about that.
So there are a couple things here, and this is all hypothetical. But one, if the company is experiencing financial hardship, they should certainly have a discussion with staff about that.
Okay.
And if they have a proposal to address the extraordinary impact that they're experiencing, we would bring that to council, and council could make a decision at that point. If they are at the point of bankruptcy or force majeure or other areas that causes a situation where they actually cannot deliver the service, we will certainly broach that conversation with them and see if we could resolve that, or we may have to terminate the contract and start the process over.
Okay.
Yeah, there's lots of variables in it. Okay.
Yeah, and then as we get to the near the back, so like page 62, we've got some figures in there for our existing storm works, just to help them bid that portion of the job. And then page 67, there's the road network, but these are going to be 24 by 36 drawings for the contractors to bid on. They'll see a little better.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 68 is our entire list of roads, what they are, paved or gravel, length. Hidden that one on your wall.
Another area where we have made some improvements in this RFP this go around is reporting. There will be monthly reporting to the district. We have road patrols, we have a whole bunch of incidents that could happen. We also have climate target emissions reporting, which is actually a requirement from the province. And you will find that on page 60 and 61 for fuel consumption for contractors' vehicles. And given the fact that if we did not have a contract, the district would have to provide those services in-house, and the district would be in a position to report on those fuel consumptions in-house because it would have access to that data readily. There is a guide that the province has put out so that contractors can submit that information because we have an obligation to report that to the province.
So do they report it to the province, or do they report to the district and the district reports to the province?
The flow should be to the district because the district is the client for the contractor. And that information is reported through the district's emissions reporting to the province.
Yeah, that's part of provincial carbon reduction policy. So it's not an optional thing.
Yep, it's on page 61, provincial guide on including contracted emissions in local government corporate inventories, 2012.
Thank you. Okay. Further questions, Councillor Herring? You look like you have one.
Yeah, just a
And then
couple.
Councillor Frizzle.
One thing I was curious about The determination of the priority level of the roads in Clearwater, I was curious, what's the criteria that kind of separates them out there?
Yeah, the road classification is based on traffic movement essentially. So the arterial roads would be the highways. We don't actually have to clear the highway, but so the main routes are the Old North Thompson and what else we got in here? Yeah, Clearwater Village Road, and Swanson Road. These
Like-
are the,
I think one I'm really curious about is in category 2, we have KP Road, which is out near Vavenby.
oh yeah.
And then, in category 3, we have Raft River Road, which is a subdivision in town. Right? And I'm just wondering why KP Road would be higher priority than Raft River subdivision.
I can probably answer that, but go ahead and answer that.
Yeah, and it's just, that was just by road classification, so it would be considered a collector road, and that one at the end of Raft River is considered a local road. But that we could change that though.
Yeah, and KP Road being gravel, and then also being an industrial road is probably why it's at a higher level. Yes. Some of these things, a lot of this is forwarded from MOTI days when they managed things. The initial, also another consideration is there a school bus route on that, because that puts it on primary even if it's a side road, things like that. If my recollection is there. Councillor Sim or Councillor?
No, just as a supplement to what Councillor Herring's bringing up, and I really appreciate that, because I also note that Evergreen Place is a category 3, and per our earlier conversations this year, Barber Road is category 3, as is Clearwater Valley Road, and so those are the two arteries that if they're without access.
You don't do Clearwater Valley Road.
So is it just up to how far do we? I'm just seeing it on here, so what would it? What,
Clearwater Village Road is a different.
I
think
see
that's Canada
Clearwater
Creek.
Valley Road dead end. I'm not sure what that means.
Where's that?
70?
70.
Yeah, that's Argo.
Oh, that's up to
Clearwater
Buck
Valley.
Road.
See.
See Buck Road's on the other side of it.
Oh, yeah, so you're actually talking
Okay.
about Buck Road, you're not to the point of Clearwater Valley Road, so the secondary.
Oh,
coordinate
thank you for
is
that.
To the point of connection. Okay.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
Back to you, Councillor Herring. You obviously have a better handle on this. Thank you.
Councillor Frizzle, did you have a question?
I wanted to carry on with that question. Yours, Evergreen.
I know,
Are
but I
we
might have read the chart
responsible-
wrong.
Are we responsible for Evergreen Acre?
No, we're not.
That is really too bad, because it was really bad this year.
It is strata property, is it
Yeah.
not?
My understanding.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's the society actually has
Yeah.
to make that decision.
I-
It's the
maybe
same thing
before
with
that.
any future strata
After
properties.
somebody else.
Yeah, for sure. Councillor Herring.
Yeah, and I just wanted to open the conversation about service levels. In terms of driveway plowing in Windhaven and Warehouser. Not full driveway plowing. What I mean is windrows left in front of driveways. I know in a lot of other communities, they have the plows that can actually prevent the snow from covering driveways. We have a lot of seniors, parents in those communities. Is that something we can add as a service level in those neighborhoods without significant cost to the contract being added?
I have added that when they're using a grader to follow behind with a loader to clear out the driveways. But on the main roads where they're using a plow truck and they're going 10 kilometers an hour, so they won't be shoveling those ones. But
So when we get to the point where we need a grader to move it out or to take the tops off of windrows, there will be a loader following behind, is what I'm
Yes.
getting? Okay,
Awesome.
thank you. Yay. That should stop a
Will
lot of
alleviate
complaints.
a lot of info board.
Hey, Councillor Frizzle.
Is there anything in this contract that is, not this one, but has been taken out for the contractor to do that Public Works is doing? can do.
some minor things, but the trails were a change order, I think, since the trails were built. But Public Works has taken those on. They're going to do all the trails.
That's not, the trails are not part of the contract at all.
Correct, yeah. And the sign maintenance, they're going to take that as well.
okay, Public Works is gonna take, well, that's good, because we usually have a cache of those, and we have machines that are scaled for the trails. That's good, okay.
Is there anything else?
What about sidewalks? Because I noticed the little machine does the sidewalk.
Right, yes, so trails and
That's a trail?
sidewalks. There's,
Okay.
I think there's very few sidewalks that were being done by the contractor right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, that's good. It's in our hands to do at will and at complaint. Or as needed, not complaint. Okay, anything further? Councillor Sim.
And I don't know how it compares to the last contract, but some of you've got the 3 categories for weighting, so 25, 25, and 50. And it seems to be a good rigorous process in that one. But some of the criteria is you have to have 3 years of experience with that. Was there any discussion about should there also be demonstration of the financial capability to expand? Like, do we need to know where they stand financially? Is that something that's considered or not? So
In what context? Expand.
So if they've done the service, do they have the financial ability? Can they demonstrate that? Does the district need to see that they have the ability to stretch to take on another contract? Like, do we need to know anything about their financial viability?
Nope, not to my knowledge. If the company bids, their bid actually indicates that they're capable and willing to take on that work. And if we later learn that they are unable to do so, then we will have to take different decisions.
Is there a bond on this contract? Is there
Pardon me?
is there a performance bond on this contract?
No, there's no
There is
bonding.
not. Okay, well that's good. I mean, I used to have to put up $100,000 a year. I had $100,000 locked in the bank account that I can use for years. Actually, it was 3% of the it wasn't 100,000. It was 3. Ended up switching to 3% of the 3 or 5% of the contract. Many contracts are 50% now.
We will check with our legal on whether we should consider performance bond.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, to my knowledge, they're not standard on the multi-year contracts, but we definitely look into it though.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And I guess just in follow up to that, because I noticed that you've got that the equipment, labor, and material rates will not be assessed in the pricing schedule, so they are requesting the capabilities section. Oh, sorry, Lynn, I'm on page 1, 2, 3 from the end. So it's 3.1 pricing rules and requirements.
Okay.
There. And I'm only asking because it is quite heavily weighted at 50%. Is there any need to address what type of equipment they would be using, just to ensure that we've got a standard that's coming into the district?
Yeah, so that will be in section. So we do ask them to list all their equipment and everything.
So it would be part of the judgment of proposal.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's good in a sense that gives them the flexibility to make suggestions with the equipment they have or with the equipment they think is best for the job, to do the job.
Yeah, so in section 1, so that's page 3 of the.
Do Appendix B?
So yeah, in Appendix B on page 3. So the first question is describe your organization's capabilities, history, background.
So that's worth 25%, which is a significant portion.
There's seven questions in this one. But, so lots of details about their skills and their equipment. Like question 7 is their equipment, labor, and material rates, like all their machinery and labor rates.
Yeah, I didn't read it. And so thank you for the clarification. So I didn't read please list or attach a list of all equipment, labor. I misunderstood how that's presented, so I apologize for that.
Oh, no worries.
Okay.
And I did have one on here for, question 5 is to list an alternate sweeping cost to completely remove all the salt, gravel, sand from the roadways. This keeps coming up. People are saying, why are they not removing it all? And because it's very expensive. So we can get that cost and we can look at it and determine if it's worthwhile to do.
Okay. So multiple sweeping or a different type of sweeping that
Yeah,
gathers
some sort
it
of
up.
vacuum sweeper that,
Yeah, I thought about especially the sidewalk across the bridge over here where you cannot push that into the river in any way. Councillor Bratton, did you have further?
I just have one more question about subcontracting. It says they should not subcontract any obligation under this contract other than Schedule C. Is that this at the back? Because it doesn't really look like anywhere to list anybody.
Schedule C.
Schedule-
It's actually in the main contract, isn't it?
Oh, is this not the main contract? Sorry, I was wondering.
Oh. Schedule C is list of subcontractors, which is not listed as of yet because they have to add it part of the proposal.
Yeah, no,
Is
I
that
see
correct?
it. Sorry, that's me.
Yeah. And some companies might want to do that for something like sweeping or line painting or potholes or.
Well, for sure, I just- yeah.
I mean, I subcontracted all sorts of things.
For sure.
And that, yes, that was an agreed to thing as part of contract negotiations. For example, I subcontracted cross-country ski trail maintenance to Myrtle River Nordics and an earlier version of the Wells Gray Outdoors Club.
Is it part of the process to accept the bid? Do you double check who the subcontractors are? Is that? Yeah, you do. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I guess the last one would be, and it's probably in here, is there a clause that if after the first year it's clear that it's not a good match, is there an escape clause? Or is it a committed marriage for 4 years?
Good question. Before the district, the roundabout way to answer the question, before the district move to terminate or before the contractor moves to do the same, the idea is to resolve any dispute that may arise. And so we have a dispute resolution mechanism in here where the senior levels of staff and the senior levels of the contractor can have that discussion. With respect to after 1 year, I just want to quickly scan through here.
so this is in Appendix A, Section 17 would be the dispute resolution. So the Appendix A is the actual draft contract.
And if it's not a dispute, it's just quality, or maybe even the contractor says, you know what, I've bitten off more than I can chew. Like, where would we be if that came up?
So page,
And you don't even need to say the page. You can, if you say it's in there and addressed, that's okay too.
so there's a few pieces to this. There's rights to monitor, inspect, and investigate the work of the contractor. There is warranty for the contractor's work. There is non-compliance provision in the draft contract itself. There's termination provisions. Again, we have, with all our RFPs, put what the draft is. If we're using MMCD, it's defined that we're not necessarily going to negotiate changes, but here there's opportunity for some negotiations for sure.
Yeah, and changes to service is listed in here as well. So if there's
Sorry, I didn't get that.
changes of service, so
Okay.
if there was something we wish to take on or add on to the contract.
Yeah, and you know, Clearwater's added a lot of things over the years.
Yeah. Things change.
Yeah, for sure. So it's good to, I look back at my, anyways, I'll stop talking about my contract, but anyways. There is a termination clause in there, and I'm quite sure that if some contractor wanted to get out of this, they can quite easily do the termination clause. So you have that there. Staff needs a motion to move forward with this draft, put it out.
And it's been vetted by legal?
Huh?
It's been vetted by legal?
It's been vetted by legal.
Okay.
Yeah. And we do have the thing. Counselor Herring.
The motion that this be put out for RFP.
Yeah. Subject to finalization because it's still a draft.
Right.
Seconder on that?
Second that.
Okay, further discussion. This is a fairly modern standard contract. A lot of the language I've seen before. I'm much happier with this one. It does have ins and outs in it.
So does that mean that it comes back to council for the final, or just move forward?
it's up to council. We could do whichever you direct us to do.
I found that reading this large package in 10 minutes was a bit daunting for me. So, I mean, it sounds like it's been very, very thorough. It's been vetted by legal.
Yes.
Yes, it has. Legal actually drafted the contract, drafted the same template that we use for parks and parks maintenance contract. We've adjusted the scope of work because it's specific to road work, but yes.
I would draft to go forward.
Good. Okay, any further questions or comment? If not, I'll call the vote to move forward, send this one out. All those in favor? Good. Thank you for your excellent work on this.
Yeah.
It's a very, yes, there'll be more time to read it in detail, but all the bones look really good in there.
I don't
I'm
even
very
think
impressed
any
with
more
this.
time would make me any more understand it. So
Yeah, that's the thing, right? And a lot of it is the proposal of the proponent, and then after that, tweaking conversation back and forth between staff.
when is the if it goes out? When is the expected closing date?
The process we will be following is once it's finalized, we will post it out either at the end of this week or by next week. It will be open for at least 1 month, following which the district would review all proposals received with a legal monitor to make sure that this process goes as it should go. And we will develop recommendations and bring those forward to council for action.
And one more, who is on the hiring panel or the review panel? Like if legal is just there to assess, but they're not part of the assessing the criteria?
One hasn't been struck yet, and if one was struck, I would not be in a position to disclose that publicly.
Fair comment, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, knowing in the
Fair
past
comment.
that we used a combination of inside and outside professional assistance.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was just inside or if it's the combination, but never mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Okay, moving on to bylaws. Everybody's just gutted that we're gonna adopt this one, I believe, or read for a first time and a second and third time. Somebody any discussion on this one? Any comments on staff? This is to go back to essentially daytime meetings. For council.
Right.
Okay. 17.1, first recommendation, the bylaw 284-2023, amendment to council procedure bylaw 268-2022 be read for a first time. What is the desire of Lynn? Councilor Frizzle is to move this. Seconder? Discussion? Okay, I will read this. All those in favor? I will read this for the first time. District of Clearwater bylaw number 284-2023, a bylaw to amend District of Clearwater Council procedure bylaw number 268-2022, whereas section 137 of the community charter provides that power to adopt a bylaw includes the power to appeal or to amend or repeal it, and whereas the Council of the District of Clearwater wishes to amend District of Clearwater Council procedure bylaw number 268-2022, now therefore the Council of the District of Clearwater in open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as the Council Procedure Bylaw number 268, Amendment Bylaw number 284-2023. All those in favor? Oh, I already did that. Never mind. Recommendation 2. What is the desire of council? Thank you. Seconder?
Second.
Discussion?
Who is the second?
Councilor McKenzie.
Yep.
Lots of options. Mac Frizz Bratton. District of Clearwater. All those in favor. Okay, District of Clearwater bylaw number 284-2023, a bylaw to amend District of Clearwater procedure bylaw number 268-2022, whereas section 137 of the community charter provides that the power to adopt a bylaw includes the power to amend or repeal it, and whereas the Council of the District of Clearwater wishes to amend District of Clearwater Council procedure bylaw number 268-2022, now therefore the Council of the District of Clearwater in open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as the District of Clearwater bylaw number 268, amendment bylaw number 284-2023. We can move to adopt, I believe, Mr. Thomas, there is a possibility that we can move to adopt at the special meeting, or do we have to wait till the next regular council meeting?
We could do it at a special. If it's advertised.
If it's advertised. We don't, so July, we only have one meeting. August, we only have one meeting. I believe it's the second week, or is it the first week?
11th.
It's the 11th, so that's the second week. It's a daytime meeting by schedule anyways, so there's no hurry on it. Okay, so thank you. That was the only concern I had on the conversation. Okay, excellent, thank you. Moving on to Committee of the Whole, correspondence, response required, BC Hydro, UBSM meeting invitation. We discussed that earlier, but if there is a specific requirement of that we have in Clearwater that's not about general power security, grid security in the valley, if there was a road or a project or something that we did, we could always set up a meeting with BC Hydro staff. But at this particular point, I don't see that on the horizon. It may come up. There we do no correspondence, information only, no notices of motion at this point. Public question comment period. Hello, public. How are you doing, public?
I'll never forget that, Marlon.
Thank you.
Anyway, last winter, Dutch Lake subdivision got plowed in.
Yep.
Like real good.
Yep.
All their driveways. I don't drive, I don't want to shovel the driveway.
Yep.
I had a path. I actually ended up getting plowed in where I had to walk over the darn snow and down the other side.
Yep.
Couldn't they come in with a little bobcat, like they did all the driveways and found me out? No, they looked at me.
Okay.
Shovel. I was not happy.
This winter, when I'm doing my mom's place, I'll come down with my mini tractor and do your driveway or your path into your house. Just ask me the next time you see me going by in the winter
I
time.
meant to, Merlin, but I didn't want to put it on the spot.
Yeah, it's that's fine. I will take care of that for you. As long as you don't sue me for damaging anything.
I don't care.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Anything online?
Nope.
Nope.
Nothing
Okay.
online.
Nothing online, thank you. So we do have to move to in camera. There's a recommendation that the meeting be closed pursuant to sections 91 ACFIK of the Community Charter to discuss matters relating to personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position or as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality, or another position appointed by the municipality, labor relations, or other employee relations, law enforcement, if the council considers that the disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the conduct of an investigation under or enforcement of an enactment, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages, and that, in the view of the council, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were to be held in public. I think that's every section of the community charter, if I'm not mistaken there. Staff, do we need anything else on that, or do I just get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Frizzle, seconded by Councillor Bratton. All those in favor, 10-minute recess at least, please. See you at 8 o'clock.
That was a mouthful. I keep that to read.
So I was, did you read this?